we've got this element. We're gonna have violins 1 plus woodwinds. So the violins are doing zakata, zakata. The woodwinds are doing taka 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 taka, and the bassoons are doing takata, and the other one is doing paka paka paka. So it's gonna be like action high intensity for kids. So you're gonna see action high intensity is all these changing textures, and it's very chaotic. It's a hybrid between adventure, hero, and action high intensity with more melodic elements and more clear harmonies. Alright, lots to talk about in this score. Let's focus on the orchestration one more time. It just sounds so good. Maybe we can review the size of the orchestra. So we got 3 flutes, so 1, 2, 3 oboes, English horn, I guess, clarinet 1, 2, 3, bassoon 1, 2, contrabassoon, horns, trumpet 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 tenor trombones, 3 bass trombones, 1 tuba, 2 arps, and we've got a piano, and then we've got a string section with 18, 16, 12, 12, and 8. So percussion hit, beginning, boom. The pulsing synth. Double bass is like low pad. The first thing that I would want to mention here is the accents, right? Accents. This line here, it's also in the violas. Ticking, takan, takadan. So obviously this line was here, but it would not stand out as much if we didn't have the cello section. Now, let's take a listen to this swell. We are in the low register with the bass with the trombones plus the bass trombones. And it's a closed voicing in the low register. It is relatively low for trombones in the orchestral context. So anything below the middle C, it's considered low for a closed voicing. It's in this range. It's going to create darkness, even though it's a major chord. And then it resolves to a minor chord, which makes that a little bit more dramatic. This would have been more dramatic if the first one would have been a minor chord resolved to a second minor chord. But again, this is for kids. So keeping it a little bit less intense, but still, it sounds dark. And we also have the horns doing the same, which are gonna soften a little bit, and they're in the same range. So we're gonna have horns, trombones, and bass trombones. Which is perfect, it's just gonna work perfect. And then it resolves to this B minor chord, from A flat major to B minor. And then here we are gonna have the double basses coming in, the BCs. Yeah. And all the time we've got all the bass component to the sound. So we get a little bit more of a dramatic sound. And it continues to go with the staccatos and the descending line in the cellos. When this melody comes in, we're gonna have the cellos going up, and then we're gonna have the violins, one continuing ascending, ascending, ascending. And we can see how this is very interesting because the last two notes of this descending cello line are doubled with the double basses. But we've got the double basses divisi, just half of them. Here we've got 2 and 2 for each note. 2 here and 2 here. And then in the next page, we're gonna see how we're gonna have these 2 and 2 doing these octaves. Then we're gonna have these 4 doing these last 2 notes that are gonna thicken and add boominess to these last 2 notes here, which will conclude the descending cello line. Let's take a listen to what the double basses are doing. So digadim, which help with the double basses plus low percussion instrument. From piano to mezzo piano, and then here the stops, violins want to stop, so they do taka tiki, and they stop for 1 bar, and then they're gonna continue, they're gonna come back here. Let's try to isolate in our head what's going on, because there's a lot of elements, right? So tin 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 tiki tin 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 tiki tin 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 tin. This is the massive, rhythmic pattern in the strings, and basically we're gonna have these the violins too, but then we're gonna have the cellos and the double basses as well. Let's identify these guys, and I think the percussion obviously is helping. And we're gonna have the accents in one end. Tan 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 taka tan 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 taka tan 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 tan. We've got the percussion helping with those accents. But the snares, though, in the higher register of the mix, playing sort of like a counterpoint with that ostinato, which works so well. At the beginning, it goes with the accents, and then for the second part of the bar goes syncopation with the accents. It's so beautiful how the snare obviously recorded separately or samples, but it's beautiful where it's placed. So basically we're gonna have the violins too, but the weight of this ostinato in the mix in this kind of like mid-right. So it's an open wide sound. Plus it sits close, but it's an orchestral melodic instrument, the violins, the strings section. So it's gonna sound like a decatory distance type of thing, plus a little bit of close, because, for aggression, this type of more produced sound. Great, awesome. The snares, though, are gonna sound closer, clearly closer. So they're gonna sound higher in register, are gonna sound in a similar space, left to right, but they're gonna sound way closer. So that separates them from the double basses in the cellos, and obviously separated from the more conflicting frequency-wise instruments, which would be the violins too. Basically, we are creating separation here with, first, the snare is playing a counterpoint, it's not playing the same thing. Now, in terms of register, with those instruments that share the same register, in the mix, we're gonna separate them. The violins are going to sound over the left side, the snares are going to sound over the right side, because they share the same range in terms of frequency range. And then for the cellos double basses, because they don't share the same range with the snare, that's gonna generate the separation. But now we're gonna move the snares a little bit closer to the mix. And I'm just talking about the snares and the strings ostinato, because it's this rhythmical counterpoint. Then we listen to this like, it sounds so amazing, right? This is the small little details. Clearly closer, like we can hear the room sound, so it's not dry. Like this is recorded in a completely different room. Closer miking for this snare. Alright, so we've identified 2 elements, right? We've got the ostinato, we've got the snare. Now we've listened to this several times, we identify this super easily. Let's go first for the other subtle one, the woods. Let's identify this. We've got this element, takatik, 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 takatik. It comes in the second bar. It's subtle, and we're gonna have violins 1 plus woodwinds. So the violins are doing zakata, zakata. The woodwinds are doing taka 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 taka. And the bassoons are doing takata, and the other one is doing paka, paka, paka. This is just a proper orchestration. So in bar 2, we've got tan 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 taka tan tan tan. The main thing that we're gonna hear, the strings ostinato in the lowest strings. Instead of presenting the entire ostinato in bar 1, you're gonna present the ostinato by section. Bar 1 you present the few elements, and then bar 2 you present another element coming in. So there's time for at least subconsciously the audience, as the listener, to identify the different elements, and it sounds like. So at this point we can hear the first time that it comes in is a little bit more subtle. And here we can hear it even more because we've got the oboes double reed that cuts through the mix a little bit better. It's not the best range for the oboe, but it's not too low. And it's a good range for the oboe to start cutting through the mix. So this is the mid-low register for violins. So we are not gonna hear them as much. But also we have more weight in this case. More weight, now we have less weight because the bassoons disappeared. Yeah, that's right. We've got more weight in the high register, which is gonna push this motif. And this is used as a transition for the next page. We don't know if the oboe is playing in 2 oboes because we've got oboe 1, 2 here. There's no indication if it's at 2 or just one of them. With the clarinets helping a little bit, well, playing the same notes, but the slight difference is very typical in good composition, good orchestration, and very typical in John Powell. Instead of copy pasting, there's always a little bit of a variation. Now let's identify the obvious one, which is the horns phrase coming in here. Dun, dun, da, da, da. This is 12 horns. This to me is more like mezzo piano or rather than forte because of the timbre sound. So da, 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 clearly sounds more brass than horns. The aggression of the brass, obviously trombones and bass trombones. Now when we have something like this, which is very similar to what we had earlier, the trombones are going to sound a little bit more aggressive than the bass trombones because the bass trombones are in the mid register. Tuba always gonna soften the sound, but it's gonna also provide the real bass for the brass section. Just as a reminder, we just have 2 bass instruments in the orchestra, double basses and the tuba. Everything else is low instruments, but not real bass. So when we have the tuba coming in here, and I'm guessing we don't have the same gesture in the strings because obviously these the double basses are doing I'm playing the ostinato. So it's very important if they want to provide bass component to this gesture, then it has to be with the tuba. So ta ta te guitar. Let's focus on this statement. Awesome, moving on. Let's have our ear focus on the taki-taka, taki-taka. So we've got a D note, and B note, G, and D. So we've got 2 swells. We've got the arp swell with the woodwind swell, and then we've got this string swell. So it's gonna be like taki-taka, taki-taka, rum, rum. We're gonna have the trombone. So we're gonna have 3 trombones and then 9 horns. So just pay attention to the difference in thickness and body of this first motif with this second motif. Here we go. It sounds thicker with the horns because there's more mass, there's more people. And it sounds a little bit louder, but not that much louder. Trombones sound louder. Now, because we just have 3, sounds a little bit less loud. And then we've got them coming back. Keep pam, 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 here. It's just the synth, it's so loud. Jiga, jiga, and we don't hear the strings. It's so aggressive and so in your face. That jiga, jiga, it's clearly brought up in the mix, right? It's like it's an automation. Jiga, jiga, it's a really cool gesture that just happens in between, right, the trombones line and the rest of the brass. That synth is there the entire time, obviously way louder in this microsecond, just because It adds interest, it's cool, and there's a space in between the two melodies. I was looking at this arrow is just a clear indication that we had them here, the first clarinet doing these upper notes. Let's go from the beginning now that we've studied all this, and then we'll move to the next page. Now I cannot hear trombones. Pa pam pa pa pam zakataka. Maybe they are there, but definitely the synth steps on top. Yeah, they are. It's just lower and farther away. They sit in the in the farther left side of the orchestra, and then we can hear the trumpets for sure. This is really cool. We've got da da pa pa pam pam pa 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 pam pam, and here's where we're gonna start hearing the trumpets. And then it resolves with a B note, I think it is. And then we've got the ending. So let's just analyze real quick what the trumpets are doing here. The flat major chord. So it's just going down, closing this chord, and then we've got this one kind of like dominant chord for 1/16 that resolves to this B flat chord. Trombones kind of like in the higher register with the trumpets completing the chord, and that's it. These trumpets, in my opinion, would sound way louder. We've got 4 trumpets against 9 horns, whatever. But then we also have the trombones in this high register with the trumpets doing the same thing in a very similar range, adding support. And then we are in the high register for the trumpets. It's a B flat. Then we've got the C, like the high C. Obviously, they can go higher, right? But in a kind of like standard orchestral context, that would be the not the limit, but the high register. The horns melody gets recorded separately. Like this is the most important element. It gets recorded separately, for sure. The score sounds so well because basically we are featuring every half a second the element that's the coolest. And every element has been recorded and produced already, so it sounds the best possible. So now after this end of this melody, we're gonna have the strings run coming up. Woo! Sounds so good. Obviously, they're featuring it. Right? Let's just record the strings run, right? And let's, capture it the best way possible so we get the effect that we want. This sounds better than it would sound with an orchestra playing them all at the same time. And not just that they brought it closer, but it's louder. So they bring it up, so the sound of the strings run now competes in sonically in terms of like loudness with everything that came before. Let's just remember for 1 second, full brass, high register, 9 horns, a lot of people like in all the real brass trumpets and trombones in the high register forte. Very loud strings to compare it with brass. It's not atrocious like the unbalance that just got created here, but this would not be the real balance. Let's take a look at the actual run. But basically, the highest string starting from the low register, and the low strings, in this case the cellos, are starting from like the mid register for a little bit more of aggression. Let's just take a listen about these hits. Zakataka, taka 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 taka, right? It's so solid. It's just perfect. And this does not happen by chance. We've got a synth. You got real instruments. Sometimes you will literally cut, like if the violins didn't do like taka 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 taka, you will quantize the audio. And I've seen this in like live in person, seeing them actually chop the audio or quantizing the audio. It means cutting the audio of the entire mic's array. So all these things are perfectly aligned. And on top of doing all this, we've got the percussive instrument. Is the most predominant element. Q only means that maybe we'll use it or not, maybe we'll record it or not. But And then we've got the everyone in unison sort of thing. Da, 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 da. So you're gonna have the flutes 1, 2, 3 here. Then we're gonna have the oboes in octaves now. We're gonna have the clarinets, corn anglais. So then we're gonna have clarinets 1 and 2 with the horns in unison, the 9 or 12 horns, whatever it is. And then we're gonna da da ba ba bam with the strings as much weight as possible. Vam va va vam. The cello up, you know, in the higher register with the violins and violas, and the whole thing sounds like. These cellos are a little bit loud and close, which sounds amazing, sounds great. I do this every time. I love it. It's not a criticism by any means. And there you go. Got the synth back, which I love. I think it's like this is a reminder that it was there. The tension is not in the chords themselves, because this is for kids. Let's remember, right? But the tension is in the progression and the timbre a little bit as well. But clearly, if you look at the chords, right, there's a space for way more darkness. And let's just analyze this final chord, because it's always fun. The double bass is not in the lowest register, but they went up an octave with this for more clarity, I guess. The cellos are an octave higher than this. And then we have the strings playing the chord. No, the A is not in the strings. That's very interesting. So the fifth of the chord is not in the strings. We've got basically D and a little bit of F sharp for the third, just to say that this is a major chord. But basically it's the notes. So it's an open D with just a tad of the third. Then we're gonna have D, D, D. Here we've got the A for the first time in the trombones. Why do we have 3 notes here? That's so weird, because we just have 4 trumpets. We've got 5 notes here. I guess this note should not be here. The F sharp, it's already up there. So this is just a mistake. All right, so the triadic chord in the trumpets with the upper note down an octave. For the horns, the rip, these horns, the bassoons, the contrabassoons, we have the A for the clarinet. Yeah, so it's basically D with a little bit of A and F. I think the F is in the color. See, we see it in the oboe for color, the one that's gonna add more color in the woods, and we see it in the trumpet as well for color. That's the only time that it appears in the non-string instruments. It's a D note, basically. The F and the A is gonna feel like harmonics rather than an actual, being part of the chord. Let's see. Exactly, you don't need more. Hey, you watched the video till the end, congratulations! Alright, so just comment with the I'm a composer hashtag, so I know that you've watched the video till the end. And also please consider subscribing if you haven't already. Click the subscribe button. This does 3 things. First, YouTube is gonna show our videos in your homepage. They're gonna be there when you need them. Second, helps our channel grow, makes us happy to see that number increase. And 3, most importantly, it lets the algorithm know that what we are doing matter, and YouTube is gonna put our videos in front of composers like you that want to grow and learn. We're gonna continue to post free videos to add value, but please help us reach more people. Alright, thanks for watching, thanks for your time, congrats again for watching the video till the end. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.